Okay, so we're going to do today one of the most amazing stories in the Tanakh. And we started it last time. We were in the run up. We have a very, very amazing um, situation. We have a new king who is a tremendous tzaddik, Chizkiyahu. And what he's tried to do is really reform everything. His father was a terrible idol worshiper, Achaz, and he himself is a big tzaddik, and he repudiates his father's things, and he gets rid of all the avodah zarah, and he gets rid of the bamot, which were the private altars that we've spoken about, and he's done so much. The Beis Hamikdash had been desecrated under Achaz, and he cleans it up and he sets it up again, and he has attempt to bring unity by bringing in all of the remnants of the 10 tribes that had been exiled, and he made this massive celebration of Pesach, which hadn't been done for a very long time, and so he's doing his best. Now, I want to do a little bit of a screen share. Okay, so I just want to show you in the parallel account in Divrei Hayamim describes how he gets ready for the confrontation with Sancherib. So Sancherib, Hiskiyahu has been doing all this stuff, and Sancherib has been conquering the whole area. And show you a map here. Here it is. So here's Ashur, this whole thing. And Ashur is coming and taking, I don't know if you can see that this is a light green, this whole area, all of Mesopotamia. And here's Ashur. They're conquering everywhere. They're coming down, and they take the 10 tribes, and they're heading south. Now, one more map for you. Here, you can see that the Yerushalayim is here. The town of Lachish has been conquered by Sancherib. This whole southern area, which is the kingdom of Yehuda, has been conquered by Sancherib. And he's pushing from Lachish toward Yerushalayim. And that's like his next program, is to conquer Yerushalayim. These are all the cities here that's listed that he conquered. Babel, Abba, Kuta, Hamat, Sfarvayim, all of these places, and he's pushing toward Yerushalayim. So in Divrei Hayamim, this does not appear in Melachim. It says, Sancherib came into Yehuda and encamped against the cities, and he planned to attack them. And Hiskiyahu saw that Sancherib was heading for Yerushalayim, and he took counsel with his officers and his men to stop up the waters of the fountains that are outside the city, and they helped him. And this is a very famous situation that Hiskiyahu did, and a large group of people gathered, and they stopped up the fountains and the waters that were flowing out of Yerushalayim, and they turned them around so that they would go into the city, saying, Lama yavo malchei Ashur matzumayim Rebbeim. Why should we have all this water for the people of Ashur? I'm sure that some of you have visited or heard about the tunnels of Chizkiyahu, which is still there till today. They dug from the city and from the out of the city, and they met in the middle so that all the water could come into the besieged city. So he's making here preparations for war, and that is an important detail that's not in Melachim. Meantime, We saw in chapter 18 that the general of Sancheiriv, a man by the name of Rav Shapell, came and made a very, very chutzpahdik, insolent speech toward the messengers of Chizkiyahu. And just to go over a few of the important points. The first thing, I'm just reviewing slightly, right? The first thing he does is he calls the king of Ashur the mighty king, and he calls Chizkiyahu without a name. Speak to Chizkiyahu and tell him the great king, he, Sancheiriv, who must not be named, right? He's the great king, the king of Ashur. He doesn't, and then he starts off by degrading Chizkiyahu and saying Sancheiriv is the great king. He's not even going to say his name, and Chizkiyahu gets no title. That's one. Then he goes on and he says, and this is like his argument, like, what? Why are you so secure, right? Do you think that how could you think that someone's going to help you here? And he says to him, and now this is one of the great midot of Chizkiyahu is his bitachon. He has incredible faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is where Rav Shapell attacks him, is why you have so much faith. No one's going to help you. And he says, you think that Egypt's going to help you? And he calls Egypt this famous phrase, Mishenet Kaneh Ratzutz. They are a broken reed. If a feeble and broken reed, if you lean on a broken reed, it will snap and hurt you. It won't just not support you, it will actively hurt you. Why are you relying on Egypt? And this is something that the Navi Yeshaya has also told Chizkiyahu, don't expect Egypt to help you. And if you're going to say that you believe in Hashem, right? Hashem's not going to help you. You and your army is pathetic. So his claim is that Hashem is angry at Chizkiyahu for getting rid of the bamot, because he doesn't understand that was the correct thing to do. So he says, God is angry with you anyway. And then he says, your army is pathetic. If I gave you 2,000 horses, you wouldn't have 2,000 riders to put on them. How could you possibly come against us? And the officers say, well, why don't you hold it down and talk in Aramaic, because we don't want everyone to hear. And so he deliberately raises his voice and speaks in what it's called here Yehudis, which is really Hebrew. And he says, you people are pathetic. If you listen to your king, you will end up eating your own excrement and drinking your own urine. And when you decide not to listen to your king, right, who can't save you from us, right, we're going to take good care of you. We're going to let you stay in your places until we exile you, and we'll take you to a nice land, just like this one, where you can, each live under your fig tree and your vine, which is Jewish imagery for prosperity and peace. Going to be a great land. Now, he's not stupid enough to say it's going to be better than the land of Israel, but he says it's going to be just as good. Don't listen to Chizkiyahu. No other God saved the nations from us, and your God won't be able to either. So he's made a number of very strong attacks, and the Chil Hashem is very great, and the messengers of Chizkiyahu rip their clothing, because the Gemara says, if you hear blasphemy and the notion that the other gods couldn't save, so God, Hashem, cannot save either, this is blasphemy. And if you hear that you're supposed to wear sackcloth, rip your clothes, and go into mourning. So I'll just show you here. This is the Gemara in Moed Katan. Oh, lost my place here. Where do we derive that one must rent his garments upon hearing God's name being blessed? In other words, the opposite. And it's written because of the words that Rav Shakeh said. Eliakim ben Chilkiyahu, Shebna Sofer, and Yoach ben Asaph came to Chizkiyahu Kurei Begadim. They ripped their clothing. Now, the interesting thing that the Chazal derive from here is that you only have to rip your clothing if the person who is blaspheming is Jewish. It's not counted if the person is not Jewish, and therefore they determine that Rav Shakeh is not an Assyrian, but he's an apostate Jew, and this makes everything much worse because he knows that he has to attack Chizkiyahu's bitachon. He knows how to speak Hebrew, and all of this helps him to be this terrible, it's really, when you look at this section, you see that there's a war of words here. This is what we call today psychological warfare. He's telling the Jewish people as a whole, you will have it great if you surrender. It's all going to be fine. Don't listen to your king. He's wrong. Everything is going to be great. And he mocks God. He mocks the Jewish people. Says no one can stand against us. And the the truth is that they've been eating up the whole area. And the Jewish people are right to be very frightened. And the words of Rav Shakeh are not just frightening, they're demoralizing. And that's the whole point. The whole point. And I think it's important to understand that because, times change and things change, but people don't change so much. We're very much affected by the propaganda that we hear. We're very much affected by the psychological warfare of our enemies. It's not anything new. But it is something that we have to take into account and be aware of and beware of. Okay, so Pasuk Aleph, Perek Yutet, Vayihi Kishmo Melech Chizkiyahu, Vayikrat Begadol, Vayitkas Vasak, Vayavo Beitz Hashem. Perek Yudchet and Yutet is a direct continuation of the story. It's like, it's what they call in modern Hebrew Sipur B'hem Shechim, like a serial story. You get one chapter last time, and now the new thing. Chizkiyahu hears as he rips his clothing, and he puts on sackcloth, and he comes to the house of Hashem. And here's a very interesting thing. The first thing he does is he goes to the Beis HaMikdash to daven. If you recall, when Shlomo Melech builds the Beis HaMikdash, he says, right, Kol tefillah, kol techina, shetia l'chol adam, l'chol amchei Yisrael. Any prayer or supplication, tishma shamayim, right? We're going to come to you. That's it. V'salachta l'chatas avdecha. Coming to the Beis HaMikdash is the way to appeal to God, right? Panita el tfilat avdecha, el tchinato, Hashem Elokai. Shlomo Melech is saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu, the house that I'm building should be a place where people can come to and daven to you and turn to you and be heard by you. And it's really very interesting. Till today, we understand that going to a shul or a Beit Midrash or even some other holy place, this is Hashem can hear your tefillot everywhere. So let's not, we don't want to minimize that aspect of our connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But many times we feel if we go to a holy place, let's say we go to the Kotel, that we're connecting in a different way. So this is the first thing Chizkiyahu does. Pasuk Bet. Vayishlach et Eliakim asher labayit v'Shem sofer et Siknei HaKohanim v'Tkasim Masakim El Yeshayahu Navi ben Amos. Now, The connection between Chizkiyahu and Yeshayahu, we'll talk more about it in Perek. They're cousins, actually, and they work closely together. Now, every king had a Navi who was supposed to work with him, but it wasn't always smooth because the king wasn't usually as righteous as Chizkiyahu. But his first move is to go to the Beis Hamikdash. His second move is to go to Yeshaya the prophet. He sends his messengers, everyone is in sackcloth, to Yeshayahu the Navi, the son of Amos. Pasuk Gimel. Bayom Relov, Ko Amar Chizkiyahu, Yom Tzara b'tochecha u'na'atza Yom Hazeh. Ki ba'u banim ad mashber b'koach ayin l'leida. This is a very, very famous expression, and we'll just explain what's going on. He sends the message to Yeshayahu. Today is a day of trouble, right? Distress. The terrible things that Rav Shapell has said to the people and to the officers. Tochecha, it's also clarification. It's also argument. It's a day of where Rav Shapell proclaimed that he's powerful. Ne'atza is an expression for a giduf, scorning, mocking, but stronger than that, disgracing. This is a terrible, terrible day. And he gives us metaphor because the sons have come to the mashber, which is a birthing stool. In modern Hebrew, mashber is used as a crisis, yellow mashber. And it's from the root of sheber, which is breaking. There's a breaking point. And the mashber was the name they gave to the birthing stool. The laboring woman would sit on this stool. And she's at the point where she's supposed to give birth, the koach ayin l'leida. She's too exhausted from what she's gone through to actually push out the baby. And this is the point of the most distress, the most pain, and the most possibility. It's a very interesting metaphor that he uses because what could be at the other end of this could be disaster, chas v'chalila, or it could be a new baby, a new beginning, hope, and the beautiful things that could come out of that. So that sort of tension, we're being told, Chizkiyahu was saying, we're at this terrible, terrible point. Bnei Yisrael is here, and we're under this stress, and we can't go any further. So the Chazal understand this to mean that they are demoralized because of Rav Shapell. They feel very hopeless. There's blasphemy going on. Niyatza is this giduf. I'm really having trouble translating that, but the disgrace and the blasphemy. Now, this whole thing is also told over in Yeshaya. This is one second, I got the right chapter 10. And it says here, this whole thing, Hoy Asher Shevet Api Mateu Biadam Zami. The downfall of Asher is predicted. Yeshaya predicted the downfall of Asher. You're going to be destroyed. But we aren't there yet. This is the Malbim suggestion. We're so angry about this chutzpah. We're in this terrible state, so we can't get there. We can't get out of that. So it seems, and the Malbim suggests that the Jewish people don't have enough merit for the salvation that they need. And so that's the koach hayin. We can't do this ourselves. Pasuk Dalet. Ulai yishma Hashem lokecha is et kol divrei Rav Shapell asher shlachol melech Ashur Adonai v'charef Elokim chai. And now he's sending this message to Yeshaya. He says, maybe Hashem, your God, and he's giving that kavod to Yeshaya, because he's a very humble person, Chizkiyahu. It's maybe Hashem, your God, will hear the disgrace of the Rav Shakeh that he spoke about God, and he has proclaimed these things. Hashem has heard them. And please, he says, Yeshayahu, please daven for the she'erit, the remnant that is found, and that is the people of Yerushalayim. If I showed you the map, the northern kingdom is gone; they're exiled. The southern kingdom is being devoured by Asher. We're the remnant. Maybe Hashem will have mercy on us. And he asked Yeshaya to daven. This is a very, very critical point in Jewish history. And it's interesting that we get the message that Chizkiyahu tells the delegation to tell Yeshaya, and then we get them going to Yeshaya, but we don't hear them that they say it to Yeshaya. It's as if we're being told Yeshaya knew what they were going to say. He's a prophet, right? Now, there's two prophecies in this chapter. So the first one is here, it's short. Vayomer lahem Yeshayahu, Ko tomunu adonechem, go and tell your master, that is Chizkiyahu, Ko amar Hashem, Al tira mipnei hadvarim asher shamata, do not be afraid of the things that you have heard. Asher gidfu na'arei melech Ashurati, that it's sometimes the Hebrew is hard to translate, to get the flavor of it, because na'ar in Hebrew, it connotes youth and submissiveness. To call Rav Shakeh, who is Sancherev's general, and his people, basically saying the lackeys of the king of Ashur. I heard the things that the king of Ashur's lackey said, right? Don't be afraid of that. It's as if the first thing Hashem wants to do is tell the Jewish people, do not be demoralized, do not be frightened. I heard all that nonsense that these lowlifes, lackeys are saying. It's nothing. God is not impressed. Pasuk Zayin. Hineni notein baruach, v'shama shmua, v'shav la'artzo. I'm going to cause a spirit to pass here. He's going to hear a rumor. He will go back to his land. V'hi paltiv b'cherev artzo, and he will be put down by a sword in his land. Now, it's understandable here that God's first message is don't be afraid. It's also something for us to take away, that mockery is a powerful form of, in this, I told you, is psychological warfare, the war of words, mockery, and it gets stronger. And the first thing that's going to happen is that Sancheir is going to hear a rumor and he's going to leave. Now, he's going to be killed by the sword in his own land. Now, what happens here, it's a little bit of a strange story. Basically, what happens is the land of Ashur, we'll get back to that map. Oh, here it is. The land of Ashur is left unprotected because Sancheiriv is off on all these wars of conquest. So the king of Ethiopia, Cush, who is a man by the name of Tirhakah, thinks this is a good time to attack Ashur. So what will Sancheiriv hear? He will hear that he's being attacked by the king of Cush, Tirhakah, and he'll have to go and handle that and protect his home country. And so that is what's going to happen. However, the progression of the story, I should tell you, is that he does come back and continue his attack on Yerushalayim. So the Mefarshim ask, if the chronology of the situation is Yeshaya makes this prophecy, right? Hashem causes Tirhakah to attack. Sancheriv goes back to deal with Tirhakah. And then he comes back. Why was all this necessary? What Hashem is going to do with Asher? Why is there this like pause and back? So there's a number of suggestions, right? And one is that he's going to get so much wealth from the people that he conquers in Cush that's going to come back to the siege of Yerushalayim and will eventually come to the hands of the Jews. The other explanation the Radak brings these two is when Sancheriv, very strongly puts down the challenge of Cush, he will be in this place of tremendous power. His power will be consolidated. And then when Hashem brings his downfall, it will be a greater downfall. It's an interesting question that the Radak raises. We don't really understand why Hashem does anything, but that is how this goes along. Okay, so Pasuk Chet. Now we go continue the action. Vayashav Rav Shakeh, vayimsad Melech Ashur nilchama livna, ki shama ki nasa milachish. Now Rav Shakeh has done his dirty deeds. He comes back looking for Sancheriv to continue the siege, and he finds him. Oh, this is not good. Read this map. He finds him at Livna. He thought he'd find him at Lachish. He finished conquering Lachish, and I mentioned to you last time. I sent you a little video about it on the chat. The terrible atrocities that the Assyrians committed upon these towns. Something dreadful. So now he's moved from Lachish. You can see the movement is northward to Yerushalayim, from Lachish to Livna. So when Rav Shakeh goes to find Sancheriv, he's already left Lachish and he's at Livna. At this point, right, Pasuk Tet, Vayishma el Tirhakah melech Cush lemor, hine yatzal hilachem itach. At this point, right, they hear this rumor that Tirhakah, the king of Cush, has gone out to fight. So he returns. He goes back to Ashur to fight Tirhakah, but not without sending a message to Chizkiyahu. And Berov Chutzpato, Pasuk Yud, Ko Tomura Chizkiyahu Melch Yehuda, right? Lemor, Al Yashiach Elokecha Asher Ata Botech Bo Lemor, Lo Tinatei Yerushalayim Biyad Melech Ashur. Don't think this party is over. Don't think that don't believe, don't let your God and your belief in your God convince you that Yerushalayim is not being given over to the king of Ashur. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Haven't you heard what we have done to all the lands around? You think you're going to be saved? Pasuk Yud Bet. Did the gods of the nations that my forefathers also conquered, Gozan, Haran, Retzef, B'nai Eden, Asher B'Tlasar, you think their God saved them? Pasuk Gimel. Ayo Melech Hamat, Melech Arpad, Melech La'ir, Sfarbayim, Heina, Eva, right? Where are the kings of Hamat and Arpad and the great cities Farvayim and the places of Hanan? Even none of these gods saved any of these people. Pasuk Yudalit. Now, this is another piece of the psychological warfare. I'm leaving now, Chizkiyahu, but we are not finished. I'm going to come and get you. And don't think you're going to get away from me. No one else ever got away from me. No one else's God can help. Your God can't help either. More blasphemy. And Chizkiyahu does something interesting. He takes these letters, they call them books, but they're the letter. This is interesting because Sancheriv is only sending this directly to Chizkiyahu, whereas when Rav Shakeh made his case, it was like a public announcement. When Chizkiyahu reads it, and I actually heard something interesting. I heard that Sanherib, and all the kings of Ashur were all illiterate. It's interesting. Every little child in Israel knew how to read, but the king of Ashur was illiterate, and he needed someone else to write down his thoughts for him. Point of interest. In any event, Hizkiah goes, Vayal Beit Hashem vayifrasei Hizkiah Hashem. He takes the letters, these chutzpahdik letters, and he spreads them out before God. This is not clear, but what's clear is he goes into the Beit HaMikdash as far as he can go, and he places it as if he's saying, God, look at this chutzpah, look at what he says, and as if read it, as if God doesn't know what it said there. But it's a reaction of, if you see this chutzpah and this attack on you, Hashem, then maybe you will come and save us. That is the thought. Pasuk Tetvav. Vayitpalel Chizkiyahu Pnei Hashem. This is his second tefillah. Vayomer Hashem Elokei Yisrael Yoshev HaKruvim. Hashem, the God of Israel, who dwells on the Kruvim. Now, the Kruvim, are these like beautiful sculptures on top of the Aron, and they symbolize the love of Hashem and the Jewish people. Their wings are toward each other. So saying Hashem is Yoshev HaKruvim is saying is recalling symbolically the love Hashem has for the Jewish people. Atahu Elokim levadcha. You, God, are alone among all the kingdoms of the land. You have made the sky and the land. Pasuk Tetzayin. Turn your ear, Hashem, to hear these things. Open your eyes and look at these letters. Hear. Listen to the way Sancheriv is, I'm trying to think of a better word, is like provoking you, attacking you, and disgracing you. Yud Zayin, Omnom Hashem, it is true, Hashem, it is true that the kings of Asher have destroyed these nations and their lands. And they burnt their gods. They're not gods. They're not real gods. They're sticks and stones. And they destroyed them. But that's not like destroying God. But you now, Hashem, you please save us from his hand. And all of these people will know that you, Hashem, are the only God. It seems as if one of the main motivations of Hizkiyahu is frustration and anger at the Chil Hashem involved. How can a person say such things about Hashem, be so entirely insolent, and get away with it? And so this is part of Hizkiyahu's tefillah. He says, Hashem, you gotta take on for your own kavod. This is a huge Chil Hashem. This is terrible. Pasuk Chaf. Vayishlach Yeshayahu ben Amos el Hizkiyahu lemor. Kol Hashem Elokei Yisrael asher itpalalta elai el Sancheriv melech Ashur shamati. And Yeshayahu sends to Hizkiyahu saying, thus says Hashem, the God of Israel, that you pray to me. And it's interesting, right? Yeshayahu is also davening, but it seems as if Hashem is listening to Hizkiyahu, right? You daven to me about Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, I heard you. And now there is this beautiful prophecy. This goes on for like 14 psukim. We'll do our best with it, because it's poetic. This, I believe it's word for word in Yeshayahu Perek Lamed Zayin. So Yeshayahu brings this, and it's interesting also The speech of Rav Shakeh is also told over in Yeshaya and Divrei Yamim, which seems one of the things you have to learn when we're doing Tanakh. Anything repeated is emphasized. Anything you hear twice or more, we're being told, pay attention, this is very important. So the fact that this particular prophecy is repeated almost exactly in Yeshaya, I have to check to see if it's exactly the same thing, is telling us this is a very important nevuah. And it's just, again, Hashem is basically saying to Sanherib, who do you think you are? Pasuk Chavala. This is the matter that Hashem says to Sanherib. Bazalacha, la galacha, betulat bat Zion, acharecha roshenia bat Yerushalayim. The daughter of Zion, bat Zion, is an expression for Yerushalayim, and it's also a metaphor compared to a betula, a virgin. Now, a virgin has never, been in control of a husband. So that is the metaphor is Yerushalayim has never been conquered by a foreign invader. So that's the metaphor of the betula. Bazalacha. She despises you. La galacha. She mocks you. Right? She shakes her head after you. You, Sanherib, who do you think you are? Et mi, Pasuk Chapell, mi cherafta v'gidafta. Who are you disgracing and blaspheming? Al mi harimotaka, who you're raising your voice against? You raised your voice against the Holy One of Israel. You're so out. Who do you think you are scorning here? Right? You foolish person. You're stronger than God? Pasuk Kaf Gimel. Biyad malachecha cherafta Hashem. You didn't even scorn me yourself. You sent messengers to do it. Rav Shakeh. Vatomer berov richbi ani aliti merom harim. With my many chariots, I'm going to go up to the highest mountain, which is an allusion to the base Hamikdash. Yarketei Lebanon, the ends of Lebanon now. Yerushalayim is called Lebanon because the sins of the Jewish people are whitened by the avoda in Beis Hamikdash. I'll cut down their tall cedar trees, the choice cypress trees. I'm going to come into the end of his dwelling, right? Yar Kamilo, the field of his fruitfulness. I'm going to get you, God. Who do you think you're talking to? Where do you come off attacking God? And he says, in other words, this is still Hashem saying, this is what Sanherib has said. Ani karti v'shashtiti mayim zarim. I dug wells and I drank strange water. I had to find water from my gigantic army. I dug wells everywhere. And the palms of my feet dried up all the rivers of the besieged cities. Right? And then Hashem's like, what are you thinking? Halo shamatli merechok ota asiti. Haven't you heard the merechok talking about time? Far away times. Haven't you heard that I created this world? Li may make hedem from the days of old. Yitzartia, I created this. And now, Haviotiha, right? And now I have brought it about. I have caused it to happen that you made these cities, these fortified cities, into piles of rubble, of leaves. And Hashem is reminding Sanherib, you are my tool. Hashem calls Ashur, and also in Yeshaya, Shevet Api. You are the staff of my anger. You are my tool, right? And you think that you can run things because you have the power. It's a similar situation to Paro in Mitzrayim. Hashem planned that Paro would enslave the Jewish people, but Paro decided that he's God, he's in charge of everything, and he's the one who's going to do everything, right? But you got this wrong. You're a tool. That's what Hashem is saying sometimes. You're a tool. Hello, Shamata Merchok. Didn't you hear that I made the world? Chabab. And the people that you conquered, the Yoshvei and Kitzrayad, the people who dwelled in these cities you conquered, they were weak. Chatu bayavoshu, they were frightened and dried up. Hayu esav hasadeh v'yirak chatzir gagot. They were like dried up grass on the roof. Ushtefal ifnei kama. There's this stalks of like decaying grain. You just destroyed all these places and you made them into dried up grass. But I know that. I know everything you did. And you're starting up with me, your anger at me, you're provoking me. It's as if God is saying, you think that the power to do everything is in your hands. I am in charge. And I brought this all about. I caused it to happen. Yan hitragescha alai, v'sha'anancha alav aznai, because you have been angry at me, you have started up with me, v'sha'anancha alav aznai, and your complacency, sha'ananut is complacency, it went up in my ears. You know what? I just want to remind you that you are my tool. You are my servant. I will put my hook into your nose. I will put a bridle on your lips. And I will bring you back. I'm going to make you go back the way you came. You're not going to have any choice. Up until now, Hashem is speaking to Sancheiriv. You have the nerve to think that you're in charge of everything. And I'm going to show you that you're not. I'm going to take you, put my, tools into you to show you that you are my servant. And I'm going to drag you around any place I want to take you. You're not in charge here. But since Hashem is giving this prophecy through Yeshayahu to Chizkiyahu, Hashem says, and I'm going to give you a sign. Pasuk Chavtet. This is for Chizkiyahu. V'zelach ha'ot. Achol ha'shana safiach, v'shana sheni tzachish, v'shana shlishit tziru v'kitzru v'nidu kramim v'ifru b'riyam. This will be the sign, Chizkiyahu. Now, I just want to give a little background here. These people in Yerushalayim are under siege, which means there is no food. They're not able to go out and plant. Anything they had in the city is running out. And I actually, now that I mention it, I remind myself that one of the other explanations for Sancheiriv going back and then coming back is that pause gave the Jewish people time to go and find food. That's a very important explanation, and it slipped my mind, so I'm throwing it in now. This is going to be the sign. And don't forget, this is at the end of the planting season. You can't plant anymore. But this year you'll eat safiach. Now what's safiach? Safiach is leftover crops. In other words, God is saying, I'm going to take care of you and make sure that there will be enough food in the fields, in the trees, in the vineyards, that you'll be able to eat this year. And the next year you will eat sachish. Now sachish seems to be leftovers of the leftovers. So I did see one idea that it's like the kind of things that sprout after everything's dried up. But the Mitsuda says sviche svichim, right? Leftovers of leftovers. In other words, there's going to be a miracle within the miracle here that you will have enough food to find for 2 years, and the third year already you will have been able to plant, harvest, and put in vineyards and eat their fruit. So it's interesting that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the middle of the nace that he's going to save them from Sancherev, there's still the detail of the hungry people. And as a Jewish mom, I'm all for feeding hungry people. That's what Jewish moms do. Pasuk Lamed, v'yasfa pleitat Beit Yehuda hanishara shorish lamata v'asapri lamala. And the pleta, the remnant, right, of the house of Yehuda will continue. The remaining people of the house of Yehuda, in other words, whoever has gathered here, who's part of this siege and who has survived, will do shorish lamata, will put roots down, asapri lamala, and will flourish and make fruit above. Very, very beautiful imagery. In other words, don't worry. You've had this siege. You've been hungry. It's all going to go away. You're going to have plenty of food till the time that you're able to grow. Because that remnant will come out of Yerushalayim. And the refugees from Har Tzion, Kinat Hashem Tzvakot Tasezo, the zealousness of God will do this. And there's a kind of subtext here that the Jewish people are being saved, not so much because they deserve it, but because Hashem decided. Hashem will not put up with this situation. Hashem has mercy on them, and He will save them, and He will protect them, and that's what's going to do this. Now, the next psukim are quite amazingly powerful. Lamed bet, lachein. This is the conclusion of the prophecy. Lamed bet, lamed gimel, lamed dalet. Ko amar Hashem el melech Ashur, and thus says Hashem, turning back to the king of Ashur, to Sancheirav, lo yavo el ha'ir hazot, you will not pass. You will not come into the city. V'lo yoreh sham chetz, you're not going to shoot one arrow into the city. V'lo yikadmena magain, and you will not put forward a shield against her. V'lo yishpach aleha solulah, and you will not pour against it a solulah. Now, solulah, that there was one of the problems in the times of the Tanakh, and we talked about this a lot when we learned Joshua, is how do you conquer a walled city? So if you ever watched Lord of the Rings, you can see I think it's in the second movie, there's this like crazy walled city that they have to conquer. And they have battering rams, and they have like, people who scale the walls and shoot over the walls. One of the strategies they had was to create like a ramp of dirt. They would pour dirt into a pile so that they could just climb into the city. None of this is going to happen to Yerushalayim. You will not do this, Sancheirav. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. B'derech asher yavo b'yashuv. The way you come, that's the way you're going to go. Goodbye. Be'el ha'ir hazot lo yavo num Hashem. You will not come into the city, says God. Something so powerful about this prophecy. V'ganoti el ha'ir hazot. I will protect this city. Lahoshia. I will protect the city and I will save it. Lema'ani uleman David abdi, for my sake and for the sake of David, my servant. This is a very famous pasuk. I will protect this city. Halavai ad biat Mashiach. Hashem will protect this city. Lema'ani uleman David abdi. In other words, Hashem is saying, for my sake, I'm protecting Yerushalayim. Now, why is David in here? Hashem has promised David dynasty. Hashem has told David, if your children will keep my ways, I will protect them. They will continue to be kings. And Chizkiyahu, he's definitely worthy of that. He's a worthy descendant of David, and he's a worthy of this Yeshua. Even if, and it's true, Achaz has depleted so much Yiddishkeit in the city of Yerushalayim. He has taken down so much of what was merit in the merit of the Jewish people at this point. But Chizkiyahu is doing his best. The people are doing their best. And here we see that Hashem's mercy, when people are doing their best, Hashem's mercy is on all of us. There's a very beautiful parish that I saw by Tiferet Shlomo, who says that the merit of our ancestors protects us for generations coming after the righteous ancestors. And that he makes the comment, that's why we have to be the righteous ancestors for the next generations. We have to pay it forward, so to speak. We have to be worthy of that. So this is the end of the prophecy, and the fulfillment of the prophecy is one short pasuk, Lamed Hey, Vayihi b'layla hahu, and it was on that night, right? And I don't have time to show you, but the Chazal say this is a key phrase, Vayihi b'layla hahu, on that night. So it was on the night of the prophecy, but it was the night of the Seder. So when you say there's a song by Vayihi b'chatzi halayla, one of the things we mention is the defeat of Sancherib. And it's interesting that that's a Leil Shimurim, that's a special night of God's protection. So according to Chazal, that's when this happened. Vayetze Melech Hashem, an angel of God came out, Vayach b'machanei Ashur, struck the camp of Ashur, 185,000 were struck by the angel of God. Vayashkimu baboker, and they got up in the morning, V'hinei kulam b'garim meitzim, and they were all lifeless bodies. One of the greatest miracles in Jewish history. How do you explain it? You know, if you want to be a naturalist, to say that there's some kind of plague, but 185,000 killed in that night, and they wake up in the morning and it's gone. So powerful. So who got up in the morning and saw that? That's the question. So it says here in the Mitzudas, and this is how they understand it, Sancherib was left, and a few stayed alive in order to give testimony to this miracle. And the Hanisharim Hayum Atim, the Ralbag says. Now, what happens? Pasuk Lamed Vav, Vayisa, Vayelach, Vayashav. This is the rapid movement. Sancherib Melech Ashur. He traveled, he went back. Can you imagine? He wakes up in the morning, he stayed alive, and his army is dead. Vayeshev b'Ninveh. He went back to Ninveh. Now, here's a classic example of there are none so blind as those who will not see. You saw this miracle. What do you conclude from that miracle? You conclude that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is more powerful than you, and therefore you should abandon your idolatry and your nonsense. But what happens to him? he went back to Nineveh. He was bowing down in the house of his god Nisro. In other words, he's still serving his avodah zarah. You just saw one of the greatest miracles in the history of man, and you're going back to your nonsense. And his two sons, Adar Melech and Shar Etzer, killed him by the sword. They ran off Tararat, which I believe is Turkey. And his other son, Esach Hadon, took over. So the Medrash here is very interesting. The Medrash says, why did the two sons kill him? And the answer is that Shamu oto shamar l'shochta lefanav im yatziluhu. Shelo yehagu sarei hamachutz shemeitu b'nei ma'ado. He wanted to kill them, his two sons. And according to the Medrash, Rashi is not bringing the Medrash here. The Medrash says that the king of Ashur could not get over what happened to him. And he said, like, how could this small city, like he was very contemptuous of Yerushalayim, like, how could they defeat me? And my whole army's gone, and comes back. And if you notice the accounts, if you look, they discovered many, many accounts when they found Nineveh in the late 1800s, I believe. There's nothing about this. It's just like blank. The conquest of Lachish, they have about all the conquests here, but about the defeat of the army, how they all died, it's not in there. So according to the Medrash, he said, how could this be? And people said to him, I believe that the Medrash, his wife told him, because they have something called the Akedah, where Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. So he says, fine, I'll sacrifice my sons. And his sons heard about it, and they said, oh, we don't think so. And that's why they killed him. That's an interesting Medrash. In any event, he still doesn't get it. He's still looking for some skula. He's still dominating to his avodah zarah with this great, great victory. And Kain Yavdu Kalevecha Hashem. Let all your enemies, God, let them all be lost like that. Very inspiring. I'm going to send you in the chat. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to send you in the chat Byron. Byron wrote a poem about this. It's really interesting. And my sister found me a nice nusach. I'll send it forward. Anyway, for some reason, the whole prophecy takes all the time, and the actual fulfillment of the prophecy is like 2 minutes. Okay, ladies, would you like to unmute? You have any comments? We're not done with Chizkiyahu yet. We have another Perek. There's a lot more to say about Chizkiyahu. Okay, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mom.
So,
Bye.
okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.